excuse or the other not to appear before us. And the last one, we almost issued a bench warrant, but just for the intervention of some of you, that we should give them another peace appearance for them to come here, and which we did, and today they are here. And what is before us is an investigatory hearing into the management of the resources that was accrued or is still accruing in this board. We want to know how for the past years they've spent the money and what they've done. These anyway, they will introduce themselves, then we take it up from there. Thank you.
Okay, and left when?
I'm still there till date.
Left as director when?
That was December last year.
2023.
Absolutely distinguished.
So please go. I just wanted to ask.
These are the questions you asked me to, so we take it.
Okay.
My Honorable, if you can, sorry,
Yes,
if you
no
can
problem.
be specific,
I
so
will.
it will help.
I will.
Yes, sir.
Right. So some of the yeah, he has told us now. He said 2017 to 23.
You asked if he could tell us what he was doing.
So can you please let us know what your specific duties were?
My specific duties were I was in charge of, as a director of finance and personnel, HRO was under me, the NCDF was under me, and also finance was also under me. Basically, I think that was my basic function. Those were my functions.
Finance?
Finance was under me, they report to me. NCDF, which is for instance, the loan we give to Bank of all of that was
For
also
benefit
under
of
me.
those of us that don't know, please, this NCDF, let's know the full.
Okay, Nigerian Content Development Fund. I think that fund is as a result of the act set up by the National Assembly to remit 1% of all contracts awarded in oil and gas. So that comes to that specific fund, and that fund is being managed under NCDF, that is Nigerian Content Development Fund. So we have a division that manages that.
Can you, okay, please go on. You said HRO.
And then also HRO was
Yes.
also under me. That's why it's titled Director of Finance and Personnel.
No, I just wanted him to brief us or tell us what this 1% does.
From my knowledge of the Act, the 1% is remitted to us as a result of all contracts awarded in the oil and gas industry, upstream of the oil and gas industry. It could be, contracts will be awarded in naira or a different denomination. It could be in pounds, it could be in euro or in dollars. Whatever the contract is being awarded, 1% of that is deducted and remitted to a specialized account, which we now call the NCDF, the Nigerian Content Development Fund. So that fund is being managed internally by the board.
Any other source apart from the 1%?
No other source. But the Act also provides that grants and other forms of monies can be received into this account. But to the best of my knowledge, within that period, we never had any of such.
Mr. Yawa, my name
is various loans, as it were, participations of outsiders or individual companies were undertaken by your department, as it were, for the board. Is that an affirmation, sir?
To the best of my knowledge, we appropriated funds which we sent to Bank of Industry because we wanted to intervene. If you want me to go back a bit, when I joined the board, there was a partial guarantee scheme that was existing because these funds are contributed by the industry and it's meant to be used for the industry to grow Nigerian content, what we call local content today, by supporting the contributors. So I met a partial guarantee scheme with Guarantee Trust Bank and a few other banks, which means that then, before TSA, the monies were in those banks. And while they were in those banks, if you give loan to any Nigerian company, for instance, if they perform well, NCDF will give a 50% rebate to that. So that system did not work specifically because the commercial banks, as we all know, when they have monies, they will not want to release these monies to the beneficiaries. So when we came on board, with the wisdom of the former executive secretary, Bank of Industry was invited, and we looked at it, and it was cheaper because the commercial banks were giving high interest rates for the start. So I think that was how these funds were appropriated and sent to Bank of Industry for that intervention with the industry.
Do we have an agreement with Bank of Industry? Do you have the copy of the agreement with you?
I do not. I think we do have. I'm sure the legal department. I think we have. It's very valid.
So how much, we have to have that, and how much, to your recollection, is the amount?
Now, to the best of my knowledge, we started with a 200 million.
Naira or?
US dollars was given to Bank of Industry. And thereafter, the schemes kicked off. And because of the success of the scheme, additional 100 million was also sent much later to Bank of Industry. 100, making it 300. I can't have the exact figure, but I think the total in all that finally was given to BOI, I think in different tranches, sum up to about $350 million.
Okay. Yes, I want him to, you say you do not have all. Maybe as we progress. Yes,
but
as we progress, you know, we'll have to lay a background. That's the issue. As we progress, I have a few of the companies that you presented to us here. Can you please, maybe we'll start taking them one after the other when the others have asked their questions.
What was your own responsibility, or is it that BOI had all, they had all the power to give out? I'm sure that you were involved in the due process. Can you tell us NCDMB's, responsibility in the process of giving out these loans?
I think, to be very honest, now, when we entered into the agreement with BOI, there's what we call capital preservation. We wanted our capital preservation. We want our monies to be intact and come back to us. So to the best of my knowledge, up till this minute, in as much as I'm not there anymore, every loan that is given to a contractor is being backed by a bank guarantee, meaning that the board can call up that guarantee from CBN anytime, not even from the bank. They can call that guarantee from central bank and you recover the money instantly. So the way BOI, it was structured with BOI. So BOI had all the credit responsibility. Who they want to give to is a choice of BOI.
Contribution made to your organization. Tell this honorable committee the significant investments you made, loans, not only, we're not talking of only BI, I want to know, during the period you were the Director of Finance, give us in details what transpired within those period you were the Director of Finance. We want to know not only Bank of Finance, we're not specifying, we want to know all the details, what happened, those funds, how much exactly are we talking about, how did you manage them? We want to know the significant investments, we want to know the loans given out, so that then from that, then we can generate the next question. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished. I don't have. So, for the intervention fund, I know that we also have a strong relationship with Nigerian Export Bank, Export-Import Bank, Nexim, where we established a $50 million fund for working capital and also women in oil and gas. That fund was established as a result of the advent of COVID. After COVID came, most of the companies were struggling because part of what Nigerian content has done, honest truth be told, if not for those interventions, some of these companies would have not survived today. So a fund was created. All of these ones, they're all backed by bank guarantees. So that fund was created to support working capital requirement for the industry players because there was no activity anymore in the oil and gas industry. There was force majeure issues. Most of these companies were struggling to pay salaries of their workers were a difficult thing. So we did that and made a single obligor of $1 million for every participant on that program. That's also supported in helping most of these companies to rejuvenate and then come back into proper business activities. Then also we had the...
The $1 million, is it as a grant or repayment?
It's a repayment.
Fine. So we would like to have details of all the companies you give the $1 million and if they have repaid back.
Well, I don't have, okay, well, that information I believe...
That is for that. That is for the 50 million during COVID. That is one. So let's proceed.
Okay.
So you take note of all these things. No. He's still answering more questions. That is just one on COVID. He's giving us more details, how they manage the funds.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. What about investment? Did you do any investment?
Yes, the board went into some specific investments, from modular refineries to as well as gas gathering facilities and also gas processing
So modular refinery,
plants.
how much was it?
I don't have all the figures in here, but what I can say,
Director of Finance.
I want, since I'm under oath, I
Just
need to
give
be
us a
very,
guess.
very specific.
Give us a guess.
The total,
Go ahead.
I'm on oath. The total portfolio for investment would be in the neighborhood of 180 to 190 million.
Dollars or naira?
Dollars.
What?
Investment.
$180 million.
Yes. In that neighborhood of that, yes.
Okay. That's for modular refineries.
All of it, because you have an entire value chain. There are modular refineries, there are also gas processing facilities, and so many other ones in the process. So for modular refineries, I think there are about four modular refineries, and then we also have gas processing facilities.
What about shares?
No,
Equities?
no, we didn't invest in equities.
Nowhere.
There's no equity that you invested in.
When you say shares, now there are two different things. Equity as in stock equity, or because most of those modular refineries, those investments we took, which we call the specialized project, those investments have equity participation. Now, the governing council in its wisdom created something in which we use in trying to engage these companies, and then in the process, some of them will take equity, and then some of them will provide debt, depending on how it's been structured. So on that, yes, we take equity in the companies, but equity as equity in share, in stock, we don't have any.
What is your relation with BGL Securities? The agency relationship with BGL Securities?
BGL, we don't have any relationship with BGL. To the best of my knowledge,
Okay.
no.
To build a type 3 cylinder, right? Factory. All right? In brass. And where is the project?
You can.
Any of the questions that have been asked, you can please. Moreover, what they did not tell us was that for the investments that took place while they were in office, Mr. Ayala here was the chairman of the investment committee, while Mr. Abayomi was secretary of the investment committee. So for most of the investments, they know about it, and the two of them can please assist themselves so that we'll be able to move.
Around that Bolaku, not Brasa. The second one is in Lagos. There's this free zone they call it near Ekpe on the express road. So those were the two. We started with the Bayelsa one, and if I remember, it was $5.3 million to do 400,000 per annum type 3 cylinder, the plastic type, because they are being imported. And what drove that decision that time was this Nigerian gas expansion program under former president. Basically, they want to use LPG to penetrate the entire country. So we started 400.
So
And
can you stop here? Can I hear you? Can you say? You said they were imported. and they're a local company that you were trying to help. So you've been local content, trying to help the local partners or companies to grow. You are giving them money to import, to stop the importation. So they were supposed to now manufacture their own cylinder. Okay.
The factory is within our industrial park in Polaco. No. And why? So basically, the construct for that, we have the equity going in, and also they are supposed to get the debt. The debt they are not able to get. So we have records of all their talk with Fidelity, Access Bank, and da. So when they were not able to get their debt equity, we stopped further disbursement to them. So as we speak, if you visit the site,
you've given them how many million dollars?
5.3.
5.3.
Million
When was this money disbursed?
It was over a period. Not
Over a period of what? What
2
time?
years.
2 years?
Yes.
And you just gave it to them, and up to date, nothing has been done about the money. Nothing has been done about what they are supposed to be producing.
So the equipment brought in from Portugal, madam, is in Bayelsa State. We have the equipment. We have the sand, the area sand field with the structure in place. What caused the problem, ma'am, was that we stopped to say we can no longer fund this because you are supposed to get the debt. So that debt, madam, was supposed to be the completion.
So is it safe to say that everything they've done there was the MB money?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was no due process.
Sorry, excuse me. And because we're serious about what you do with the monies of taxpayers, and also where you get this 1%. You cannot just be throwing away monies, and at the end of the day, there is no visibility of how you supported these people. That people can just go collect money and run away with the money or do nothing about it. You can ask your question.
My question goes to Mr. to you for funding. And the company is supposed to have an equity, right? Debt equity. You did not verify or see a concrete arrangement with those banks that they are going to provide that equity is ready before you start disbursement. Is it a good practice for you people to do that? Yes, go ahead.
So we have something we can call like 3 buckets of the transaction. We started with what we call bullet payments. Bullet payments. What do we mean by that? Basically, they will come based on the approval of the council, you give them the money. So the first 2 companies that we did, Watersmith, Ezekiel, they got the money. Bullet.
We'll come to that. We'll come to those companies.
So I wanted
responding
to...
No, what we're saying that. Just answer this one. We'll come to Watersmith and Ezekiel. Yeah.
So to say, I'm trying to respond to how come you are saying this thing. So it's an evolution of why we get to that point. So it's not as if. So when we started with the bullet, we got issue around one of them. We said, no, don't go that route again. Make sure that their equity is also in place. And then we created an account in which we pay the money into, which we disburse over a period of time. When we realized that this point you raised around, because you can say the bank will give you the money, and they will say they would, and they keep, pushing it down the line. We said, no, this is a wrong way to do things. We move to the next thing to say your debt must be in place before our own equity. So some of the transactions, when you the books we send to you, you will see that some of them, the money is there, not disbursed. Basically because of this issue. So the next step will be to say, yes, ma'am.
You already told us here under oath that because of the bank guarantee, that was Isaac Ayala, all of you are in the same, that the bank guarantees were in place already. So if they were in place, how come you still made this mistake?
Why? Nexim, those ones, because we have given them the money, those ones are all backed by bank guarantees. Now, the special intervention, and that's the part that I said totaling with Nexim and everything, probably about 400 million or thereabouts.
400 million.
I'm just adding up. US dollars. Now, on the special intervention fund, which is the one that we invest in, and sometimes we take equity in these companies, those ones do not require bank guarantee. Those ones do not require bank guarantees. Now, because you have your skin in the business itself, so that's why we take equity in the business itself. So those ones are not, you cannot back those ones with bank guarantee.
And the company that is doing that, there is no evidence to show that the company have their own part of equity for them to complete that project, that project. And you are saying that they are not supposed to have a bank guarantee. So how do you expect that project to be successful when your partner don't even have the capacity or the money, the liquidity? How do you expect that project to survive?
No, it's
Are you able to disburse taxpayers' money?
You see, those projects are projects that are in partnerships with the other parties, the investors. It depends. For instance, if we take up any, let's say we take up Walter Smith. Walter Smith is a partner. So that's the point I'm making. You say, who is the investor? We are in partnership in an investment. We bring in our own money, they bring in their own money. It depends on, everyone has different ratio. There are some of them that will be 10, there are some of them that will be 20, some of them.
We understand that it depends on your equity. But what I'm trying to say that if you want to enter, if it were to be your private business, let us be frank. If it were to be your private business, and you want to enter a business with somebody else, is it not your duty to find out whether that your partner have the money to invest?
You know, is it not wise for you to find out or do due diligence on all the partners that are involved, whether they have their own money to bring to the table in order for that investment to succeed? That's the point that we want to know.
And you disburse 5.3 million US dollars without any due diligence. In fact, if you look at the procedure that's supposed to be put in place, this money is supposed to even be in an extra account. It should not be given to somebody naked until they get the catapult funding. This practice is very bad. And I'm sure that if it is your money, you won't do this. If it is your money, you will not do this.
Talk. FCNA, and you know from the position I'm coming. As a finance person, please, for God's sake, 350 million US dollars disbursed. Almost 400, yeah, almost 400 million disbursed. I would want to find out. Yeah, $400 million US dollars. Yes, double cross on it. And these monies were not disbursed once. They were disbursed in tranches. And as at the time we are booking these facilities, the credits you intend to give to people, please, were there not credit analysis? Were there not projection on this business, the viability of this business? If there is, at least the disbursement should have been in stages where you can stop when you see the business is not going. As a finance person, again, please, how do you anticipate? Didn't you anticipate that these loans are going to be bad? And if they're going to be bad, what arrangement did you make to recover these funds? These are the two questions I would want to take before we continue.
Well, Madam Chairman, sorry, while International Refinery and Petrochemical Limited, please give us your brief on that.
The hydrocarbon value chain. The hydrocarbon value chain has different decision gates before we get to an approval, even before disbursement is made. Now, this decision gate, we have what we call the DG0. The DG0 is a process where an applicant comes to say, I have a viable project. And it brings that, it makes that request. In Nigeria, an applicant, I said an applicant, says, I have a gas processing plant or I have a refinery. You meet the executive secretary. A pitch is being made to the executive secretary. He sees whether that fits into our hydrocarbon value chain. And then it goes to the DG1. The DG1 is where we have the investment review committee, where I am the chairman. We have so many other directors, not just one person.
No, I'm not saying that. You were the chairman of that.
I was the chairman.
He was the secretary.
Yes, so we do that analysis at that point also. Then we pass it on to the top management committee. The top management committee is DG2, the decision gate. Now, anything that is not approved at that level goes back to the beginning. Now, if it's been approved at that level, it goes to the board, to the council. The governing council sits down and takes a decision to say, okay, this business is good for approval. When that is approved, it now goes to finance, it goes to legal to finalize the contracts and all of it, and then payment is being made. Now, recall, also that we operate a TSA account. So in as much as I'm director of finance, it doesn't mean that at the level of the TSA, I'm the one who is like the periods when you have commercial bank accounts where you are the one.
We are not impugning anything. Just let us have information, please.
So that is
this Atlantic International Refinery, please speak to
I'm coming, I will arrive at that. So, no, it's important to raise that issue because it also ties into the answer.
The process, is the process.
Yes, yes.
No problem.
So on the Atlantic Refinery, it's one of the 4 refineries that the board invested in. The board invested in the Atlantic Refinery situated in Okpoma and Brass. So I think we have a 40% equity in that particular refinery. 40. I say we invested $35 million.
Sorry. Did you do a due diligence before you invested in that thing? And what is your relationship with that? Okay, it's coming to that. Okay. Okay.
My distinguished, my honorable, if you say if I did, it's a process. I have told you it's a process. So, yes, so we invested 35 million and we have a 40% equity in that company. Yes.
So as at now, what is happening to the project, the refinery?
Okay. That is also among one of the projects that is slightly being delayed for very
Slightly.
Slightly being delayed.
It's delayed
for giving out $35 million.
It's delayed, to the best of my knowledge, is delayed because not only that, a lot of other projects are delayed. The reason was because post-COVID, most of these things were done before COVID. Post-COVID, a lot of things, dynamics changed. And that also affected some of the projects that we have embarked on.
Mr. Ayala, sir, you see, as I told, was it the executive secretary, that this place is not a witch hunt parlor. There are issues, these monies belong to Nigerians. That company was registered in 2020 as a family company. That company has one naira per share capital of 10 million naira. That was what they registered that year, 2020. That same company was given 35 million US dollars of Nigerians' money, not more up to 1 year after its incorporation. Right? Not up to 35 million US dollars after its incorporation. Yet up till this day, right? You bought the 40% that you...
My honorable colleague, let me just even come in here. From your findings that it was just a 10 million naira. We're not talking about dollars.
No, it's a 10 million
and
naira.
if you calculate it, where is the accountant? Please, can you take Can you ask them, they listen and take on this, please?
If it's 10 million, and you say we bought 40% of it for 35 million US dollars, right? That means we paid about 14 billion naira for those shares of a company that got registered
2020
and paid 10 million at 1 naira per share.
No track record.
No track record. You now paid 14 billion naira to buy 40% of a 10 million naira company as your own equity.
What was the value of the shares at the time of that investment?
Behind investing such of Nigerians' money for a company for the same shares, because as far as I am concerned, I don't think we have anything that is called equity. Those people have just cashed out on us and they've gone. You have said you've retrieved some things back. Have we retrieved 35 million US dollars back? Thank you.
A legal firm, OM Ayotebi, SAN, and partners, that was engaged by NCDF, raised fundamental issues of capacity and compliance and recommended caution. And you guys still went ahead and invested against the advice. Are you aware of this, Mr. Director?
I have some documents before me that probably may prove otherwise. The tenor for loans that you domiciled with BOI is 5 years. And the first set of loans was in 2018, 2019. That totaled about $160 million. Out of a total disbursement as at now of $320 million. So they disbursed about 50% in the first 2 years. Now, if you take away the tenor period of 5 years, all those loans are supposed to be paid back by now. So out of $160 million that was disposed, which is due, the recovery from the records before us is just about $45 million. That's 30% of what was disbursed, even without adding the interest. Now, I'm not sure whether you are aware that the impaired loans ratio for BOI for its own funds that it disburses as loans to beneficiaries is just about 3.8%. So in other words, their bad loan portfolio is just about 4%. But in this particular case, and the money is due, you have about 30% bad loan ratio. And then you went ahead to tell this honorable committee that you are happy with the performance of your funds with the BOI. Now, you mentioned the fact that you have CBN guarantee for those loans. Why have you not called on that guarantee as at now? That's number one. Number two, I believe sincerely that you have very, very poor oversight of $320 million Nigerian taxpayers' money that you domiciled with BOI. And I'm curious to know why your own funds seems to have a very high bad non-performing loan ratio compared to their own funds. And I think that something is going on there that is funny that this community would like to know about. Thank you.
The interpretation to how we see the Bank of Industry and then also Nexim loans. I think I would like to address it this way. First and foremost, I come back to the fact that I said each and every of that loan is secured with a bank guarantee from central bank. So anytime we call up our money, we will receive exactly what we have invested.
The tenor has, why have you not called the loans back?
I'm going to address that. Now, the reason why you see some of them, it wasn't a tenor expiration. I think it was a tenor extension. The reason is this. I mentioned here that during COVID, it was a struggle. Distinguished honorable members, you will all agree with me that if you had borrowed any money from a commercial bank at 20%, If there are any time for default, there are never a time where the commercial bank will tell you that, well, we will bring down interest rate, or rather they will even decide to take a default interest rate and then lock you in. Because part of our measurement for local content is how well we have supported this industry. So post-COVID, like I mentioned, a lot of companies struggled. And the CBN then came up with a regulation or a circular which is also CBN intervention fund. They had to reduce their interest rate. So our own interest rate of 8%, first thing we did was to reduce our interest rate of 8% to 6% all in.
Mr. Yala, are you a financial company? Are you CBN? How can you sit down here and be telling us what you're doing with Nigerian taxpayers' monies? You're telling me that you reduced your interest rate. That is totally unacceptable. Continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, two things happened. One, there was an interest rate reduction and also an extended tenure for most of the struggling clients. So, 2 years, if I get it, about 2 years. So 2 years. Now, for me, at this point in time, if there are any struggling ones, and we think that we want to call in the loans, it's as open as anything. The guarantees are there. We can call in the loans and recover our money. But we also look at the impact that will have on the contractors doing business in this industry. So for me, I think I might agree with you partly because, yes, the tenures have expired. Some of them, there was an extension in tenure, which I mentioned to you in India. And on top of that, I think I also remember vividly, that was even after I even left in India, sometime last year. Some of the companies...
Excuse me. This tenure extension, was there a letter that was given to these people for tenure extension, or you're just telling us here now?
Yes, Madam Chair. Let me even go back to the history
and please
of that.
Produce
There were letters written to each and every one of them. I recall at that point in time, even BOI on their own funds also brought down interest rate. The Central Bank of Nigeria also on their own brought down interest rate. NCDF also, just to support the industry.
These people wrote to you that because of COVID, they cannot pay the interest, or they will not be able to pay the monies that were given to them, or the funds that were given to them to back up their businesses at that time. And you wrote back to them that you were going to extend the loan. Now, let me also tell you something. We were all in this house when we had the COVID. Can you take off your... And they asked a lot of people, constituents and other people, to write or to forward their names for COVID loans, which was supervised by CBN and CBN took all their monies, not with interest, not just with a static, they did not come down. So you're telling me here that CBN or BOI reduced that. They did not reduce the money for these poor masses that took loan from in the CBN COVID intervention. Some people took 50,000, some 100, some 1 million, some 2 million, and they took they said back from these people, even up to date. They are still collecting the funds from these people. So I don't know, and I don't understand where you're coming from that you decided to reduce the interest rate for these people or to give them an extension. Please, can you explain to us again? Probably I did not hear you well.
Is how well local companies are performing. If you find a local company that is doing well and has difficulty, how do you support it? That's the way we measure ourselves, to say Nigerian content has done well. And I come back to this issue. During the COVID, some of them probably have a repayment plan, and I believe that no bank will do that. Let's say you are making a repayment plan of 100,000 every month. Maybe you have 2 contracts or 2 vessels. And then one of the force majeure, Now it has been reduced to 1. The only sensible thing, in my own view, is to see how you can support this person until he gets a new job and then you continue to pay back. If you now come back to the repayment plan, and that is where it comes to what my honorable member talked about, where you now extend it to fit into the repayment plan of that particular Nigerian content beneficiary, so that he can live, he can survive. And that is how most of these things were done. And on the back of that
Mr.
also...
Ayala, sir, you see, these things that you are trying to do, you want us to sleep here. You are not answering the questions you are being asked. You are just going about these things, giving us the stories and histories. These are things that we know. Give us, once questions are asked, specific, go direct to the questions. These ones that you told us, this is the country where every one of us reside in. This same thing you've talked about, CBN, just as you have said, never reduced rates of the loan or the premium that you are supposed to pay on your loan. They only gave you extended time, moratorium of months to it. And she had told you that all businesses collected from government loans in less than 10%, and they are paying back. So these ones that you are talking about is not where we are going. The questions that have been asked you, the one that I asked you about the Atlantic, go straight to it, give us what you know about that, and we move. Leave this issue of what happened pre-COVID, post-COVID to us to take, please.
And again, he asks a very important question, that this facility is expired. And you know, from the prudential guidelines, 90 days, 25% subsequently. What happened? He did not answer that question, and we are running out from it.
But you seem to be taking decisions about the loan that is supposed to be run independently by BOI.
It is the... I'm only explaining the part of it where they guarantee now, the commercial banks guarantee. No. What I mean is that if we want to call up, all Bank of Industry needs to do is to call that guarantee from CBN and recover the money. And it's back to BOI, and then BOI gives us the money. So the commercial banks guarantee it. Madam Chair, I just want to also still emphasize on the fact that the intervention funds that were being applied at that period, even CBN reduced interest rates. It was as a result of the CBN request for reduction of interest rate that led to NCDF reducing from 8% to 6%. No, we don't have to write to CBN. We wrote to the governing council because we report to the governing council. So we wrote to the governing council to seek that concession.
But why sorry.
We would like to see those letters.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Madam Chair, just one follow-up question. Now, you have referred to the governing council, and it appears that the governing council only approved milestone disbursement, but you're doing bullet payments. So how do you reconcile that?
Not in all projects that milestone payments were disbursed. The initial projects that we started, starting from the refineries and all of that, those ones were bullet payments that were made.
Did you have the approvals to make bullet payments? Do you have concrete evidence to show that you had approval to do bullet payments instead of milestone payments as approved by the governing council?
I don't have the council memos to be able to confirm that, but I think that things were done in the appropriate way as recommended or approved by the governing council.
Okay, hold on.
He will come back to you. Mr. Yala, can you go back to the Atlantic Canary, the one he asked you, please?
Okay. So I think you talked about, I think it's a legal thing, and I shouldn't be in a position to be able to explain the shareholding and how it translates to $14 million, a billion naira.
From the refinery. I'm talking about the board purchasing the shares.
Yes,
Please, can you take that question?
Just like every other investment.
Mr. Ayala, so that 35 million USD. right? So, and you said that money was given to purchase equity of 40% from them. That means you purchased 4 million share capital. Initially, that was bought by the real owners at 4 million. Your MCV, 4 million naira, you bought it for 14 billion naira. That was assuming $1 to a naira as at that time was 400, which was not. You bought it for 14 billion. Please tell us what happened and why that happened. Those are just simple things. Yeah.
And I still come back to the same thing. I said, look, these are things that were approved by the council, up to the council, and...
Sir, somebody asked you a question. I don't want us to go personal.
Sorry, excuse me. You were the chairman of the investment committee. You were also the finance director. Based on you, if it were your company that you were going to, or someone was coming to, or you were going to invest in a company, and the bodies, and the company was in the same situation with this Atlantic Refinery, 10 million, and you went and bought that same this for 14 billion. The cost, what you bought it at that time for the 40% was 4 million naira, and you went ahead to pay $35 million. What is the rationale? You were the chairman of the investment committee. You were also the director of finance. So what's the rationale behind just dashing Nigerians' money, taxpayers' money, out to a family company? Please answer.
And in addition again, I think approval...
I think not in addition. Answer the question.
Yes.
Let him answer this, please.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I still come back to the same thing to say there are processes. There are processes, and we have followed the process that is required.
So, process, sir, is this recommendation?
So there is a process, and this process requires, I mentioned the different decision gates that have been taken, that takes place before a final approval is being made. So yes, I'm chairman DG1, I'm chairman of the Investment Review Committee. It goes to the DG2, which is the top management committee, and it goes to the council. So the entire process, requires that entire value chain, And I also think that if you want to probably, I believe you already have the documents in there, so I think that should help, in looking at the entire value chain of what was done and how it was done.
And so,
legal due diligence report, one of the processes. Legal due diligence, is it part of the process? Yes or no, sir?
I believe it should be.
No, sir. Is it supposed to be part of the process?
Yes.
Okay, can you refer yourself to the legal due diligence report of OM Atoyebi, SAN and partners, cautioning the board before you consummate that? Do you have that report?
I don't have. I'll probably,
who's the guy from the legal department? Secretary. The secretary.
Yeah,
do you have an idea of that legal due? Because that is the bottom line. That is the bottom line. That is where we will say, when you consummate this, is in the interest of the board or in the interest of some individuals. Because you engage a legal consultant to look at all the issues, do a legal due diligence, they have done the legal due diligence, submitted its report, and we have some bits and pieces of the reports. I don't know whether you have an idea about that report, sir. No, the secretary. Yes.
Okay, well, so my answer will be generic. So my answer will be generic. Every transaction actually follows, there has to be a due diligence component. And even in financial terms, there has to be some financial due diligence to be sure. So for legal, every due diligence report done, which I didn't have a brief to cover, we have a record, so we can produce those documents.
Legal due diligence report questions a transactions. Is it reasonable for an organization to proceed?
So it's a serious red flag.
Yes. Thank you.
Lead to our asking for local content to turn in the documents that they have used in processing all these dealings. Whatever other document that we have will not suffice until we counteract them with the documents that will come with that from local content, because they are the people who have the due process document. The question I still wanted to ask, other than that, was that if we say that there was a company of 10 million value or registration value and $35 million was given to that company, did NCDMP do due diligence on that company? And if so, where are the documents to that effect? That's my
Thank you, distinguished. I think one of the best way I think we should handle this is for us to go and then provide all the necessary supporting documents that you are requesting on this particular transaction and bring to this, because I might be answering and maybe we might still have that point of disconnect. So I will appeal, Madam Chair, let us provide all the documents that support this transaction and provide them to the committee.
That you have over the years, do you have they paid dividends to the board as the
last week Friday? Walter Smith declared a 4.5 billion naira dividend payout, and the interim dividend payout has been paid to NCDMB. We received the interim dividend of 450 million, and we are yet to receive the balance of 900 million after the AGM, which totals about 1.35 billion naira. On the back of that also too, last week, one of the investments, which is Nedo Gas, also we invested $10 million in Nedo Gas. They also made a profit of about 10.8 billion, and they've returned $1 million to the board last week. I think this.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah,
dividend.
Now, following up from the extracts of minutes of the board, because some of the payments. Oh, that's fine. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
So you've brought us to Nido Gas now. Nido Gas has been in fault or at fault with the investments that they have made before you. They are supposed to have, the documents that you have on Nido Gas specified a different date. When was Nido Gas loan given?
Nido Gas, Honorable, it's not a loan, it's an equity investment.
Yes, when was the investment made?
I can't be sure of the exact date.
Okay. So, no problem. So,
all the information.
No problem. Yes.
Someone should move that this house should be adjourned, and also.
Having taken the last question, honorable colleagues, right, honorable chairman, honorable colleagues, having deliberated and directed that NCMB forward all documents relating to all transactions within the period that is being questioned. I move that this meeting do adjourn, Senator.